Hey Guardians, I just want to let everyone know that I do have both a Twitch and a Twitter, and I'm very active on both. Feel free to come give me a follow on both, links in the description. I'm actually really excited for this review. We're talking about Seraphine Haze, and this gun is awesome. I love this thing. In fact, it's probably my new favorite SMG, which is saying something because Multimach has been my favorite SMG for years, but Seraphine has, I would say, for sure replaced it. It's just that good, so stick around because this is an incredible gun for both PvP and PvE, and it's honestly kind of mind-blowing to me that I don't see more people talking about it. Now, jumping right into it and starting with PvP as usual, Seraphine Haze is a stasis aggressive frame submachine gun that can be acquired from Pinnacle Ops, which are fairly easy to farm these days, with Nightmare of Galran and Heffin's Vengeance being by far the fastest. Whisper is close behind it if you know someone who can do the skip. Now, if we look at Seraphine's base stats, we have 46 range with an effective reach of 18 meters, then 17 stability, 51 handling, 32 aim assist, and 30 AE. Now, something to keep in mind is this weapon's recoil is actually very controllable. If you were to just aim it at a wall and fire, it looks pretty wild, but in combat, it really isn't an issue. I would guess that either most of the recoil is just visual, or there's maybe something going on under the hood to make this weapon bend bullets like crazy, but either way, you don't need as much stability as you might think. And so with that in mind, for your barrel, go with small bore for range and some stability, then accurized rounds for your magazine, and either a range or stability masterwork depending on what you prefer. And with that roll and a range masterwork, you have around 21 meters of reach. With a stability masterwork, that drops down to around 20. And then from there, depending on what feels good for you, if the weapon is tier 3 or lower, then ballistics is a good option. Tier 4 or above, then enhanced range or stability depending on just what feels better. But personally, I actually found that I preferred the high zoom CQB optic on this submachine gun. It just bends those bullets a little harder, and it helped make the weapon a bit more consistent. Granted, that's likely less of an issue if you're on controller, but on M&K, I would highly recommend giving the higher zoom mod a try. Now, getting into those third and fourth columns, in the third column you have hipfire grip and dynamic sway reduction, then fourth column, desperate measures and target lock. Very limited rolls here to be sure, and I have to say I do wish we had keep away in that third column and kill clip in the fourth, but honestly it doesn't matter much on this weapon. Now, as always, we'll start with a strong dueling roll, and you already know what I'm going to say. Dynamic sway with target lock. Dynamic sway will increase the weapon's stability and accuracy during sustained fire, and target lock will give you a damage increase for sustained damage. Now, these days, target lock isn't enough to reduce your TTK unless you have a very high weapon stat, but it does give you a pretty substantial amount of forgiveness, taking the weapon from a 10 crit kill to 8 crits and 2 body. You have dynamic sway reducing your recoil, and then target lock giving you a bit of free damage. Rock this on a PK's Titan and you will eat people. Now, another more niche roll that might be worth trying is hipfire grip with target lock, specifically if you're using an exotic that boosts your hipfire accuracy, such as RDMs or Lion's Ramparts. And personally, I didn't care much for this, but give it a try because you might love it. This is one of those probably isn't great, but would be fun to try out rolls. Now, as far as rolls for slaying out goes, honestly, dynamic and target lock is still a great option, but if you want a little extra potency, then I would go for dynamic sway and desperate measures. As we've talked about before, desperate measures gives a stacking damage buff, 10% on weapon kills, 20% on ability kills, and yes, you can stack those together. One stack will reduce your TTK from 0.75 seconds with 10 crits to 0.67 seconds with 9 crits. And then with 2 stacks, your TTK stays the same, but you can kill in 7 crits and 2 body shots, and with 3 stacks, you're killing in 7 crits for a lightning fast 0.58 second TTK. Now, another more niche option might be subsistence with desperate measures, since subsistence will partially refill your magazine on kills, coupled with the damage from desperate measures. If you were to pair this with something like a Devour build, you could potentially just wipe an entire team with that roll. So for PvP, those are my preferred options, though if you're rocking stasis, then Rhyme Stealer might also be a good option for either purpose. Make some crystals, break them with the weapon, get frost armor for some free damage resist. And yes, that's definitely more of a niche role, but still worth keeping in mind. Now, how did Seraphine Haze perform in PvP? Well, when it worked, it was amazing. It's snappy, accurate, and insanely lethal. And despite the weapon's recoil looking a little crazy, it's very easy to control, which is fairly typical for a lot of our newer aggressive frame submachine guns. They're just generally a lot more controllable than they look, plus the range at which you can engage targets can be pretty surprising at times. However, the weapon did have some shortcomings, but honestly, it wasn't really the fault of the gun, just the current state of PvP. First off, you have shotgun hand cannons as well as Drang and Forgiveness, all of which are just easier to use than an SMG pretty much regardless of input device. And then you have all of the melee garbage plaguing the Crucible right now on top of your just normal ability spam, making trying to push aggressively, which is what SMGs are made for, very punishing. And then you have freaks who just hold hands the entire match, which also makes trying to play aggressively very difficult. But again, this isn't really the fault of the weapon. In other sandboxes, this gun would be S tier, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if it became S tier again at some point whenever the sandbox changes again, which is hopefully sooner than later. The gun itself is very good, you just have to know what you're getting into if you decide to pull this out. Like, Anomaly should be a great SMG map, but shotgun hand cannons and melee slop makes it borderline unplayable, and you'll still get weapon diffed by sidearms. But even with all that, I still think this gun is well worth grinding for two reasons. One, it's a lot of fun regardless, and two, a sandbox shift could put this weapon at the top of the food chain. So for PvP, I love this thing. Yes, right now it's struggling a little bit, but that's just the case in general with aggressive play, and in the future this weapon could easily become a top pick. Now moving on to PvE, yet again this thing is great. In that third column you have Subsistence, Demolitionist, Lead from Light, and Rhyme Stealer. Fourth column, pretty much the entire selection of perks can serve some purpose in PvE. Now as far as combos go, for grenade builds you have your classic Demolitionist and Adrenaline Junkie role, though Desperate Measures would also work very well there as well. And then for just general ad clear, Subsistence, and Desperate Measures. If you want some extra ammo gen, then Lead from Light in the third column, which will give you bonus ammo gen on your next kill after picking up an Orb of Power. If you combine this with Desperate Measures for some extra damage and a Siphon mod, you're cooking. And for that matter, with PKs actually being very strong in PvE now, combining PKs with Target Lock or Desperate Measures in that fourth column is also incredibly strong. And this is particularly true in higher level content where enemies soak up a ton of bullets. Personally, I like Rhyme Stealer with Glacier Grenades on a Prismatic Titan since I can break the crystals with the weapon and Rhyme Stealer will give me Frost Armor. You could also do this on a Stasis Titan of course, but I prefer Prismatic because I can still have Consecration. And then another combo I really love, and what you've mostly been seeing in the background PvE footage, is Rhyme Stealer and Crystalline Corpse Bloom, where rapid final blows spawn a stasis crystal near the victim's location. Very similar to Headstone, however unlike Headstone you do not have to get crit final blows. Then combine that with a Mask of Fealty Stasis or Prismatic Hunter for consistent damage resistance and very strong crowd control. So overall, this gun is amazing and it's quickly become one of my favorite picks for both PvP and PvE. This weapon is well worth the grind regardless of the activity. As always, keep an eye on that Pinnacle Ops playlist, and if you see it's the focus piece of gear for the day, then farm to your heart's content. This weapon will serve you well. And that's all for me today, Guardians. If you enjoyed this video, then do me a favor and hit that like button, let me know what role you're going for on Seraphine, and hit that subscribe button with the bell icon. If you found this video helpful, then consider using the hype function to get this video some extra attention. You get 3 free hypes per week and it helps us smaller content creators out a ton. But for now, I'll see you all in the next one. Peace, Guardians.